Okay, so hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Fall Global. This is where we connect with global first entrepreneurs and remote work experts from all around the world. Our guest today is Rob Hamblin, co founder at Takes and founder at Leap. Rob, thanks for joining us today.
No worries. Nice to see you, but thanks for having me.
Sure. Yeah, it's a huge pleasure to have you on the show. And just let's start with maybe your quick background. Given your extensive background in digital product design and leadership roles in with major clients like Amex, Adidas, Twitter, could you share maybe with our audience a bit more about your journey, yeah, and what led you to co-found Takes and establish Leap?
Yeah, sure. So I'll try and keep this as condensed as possible, but I think I've nearly hit the 3 decades mark on my career. Originally started out as a visual designer, and then realized very early on, actually in the very early days, a traditional graphic designer. And then after several years, I transitioned into designing for small screen and mobile in the early 2000s. And for me, that was a huge transition because obviously everybody has a mobile phone now. So to kind of be at the forefront, even before iPhone was launched, and designing mobile back in those days was very challenging, but also a huge part of like who I am today. I was kind of part of the dot-com boom era where we sat at the same desk, but we were bought out and the company changed names. So originally what was 3G Lab turned its name to Trigenics. Trigenics was then acquired by Qualcomm Inc., which is based in San Diego, huge chipset manufacturer. And I actually ended up leaving Qualcomm, I think it was 2009, as a senior design manager. And I ended up going freelance for several years and ended up working for companies like Snapdragon, Vodafone, Deutsche Telekom. And then actually I'd made friends with two co-founders that were in Berlin, based at a very small boutique agency called AJ and Smart, and helped them out on several projects. And at the same time, I was headhunted by IBM to be a creative director of UX and to help form a new studio in Dubai. I was there for 2 years. 3 months into that role, the two co-founders from AJ, John and Michael, they were like, just come and join us. So they actually waited for me for 2 years before I then went and joined them. And for anyone who has heard of AJ and Smart, they were instrumental in the design sprint process and condensing what was originally a 5-day sprint from Jake Knapp into 4 days. And what was appealing with that was the fact that it was more appealing to like enterprise customers. So companies like Twitter and McKinsey and Adidas and you name all the big ones, HSBC as well. We ended up running product design sprints for those companies. So and then after that chapter, for me it was I wanted to go and actually start my own agency, which has been a long dream of mine. And actually, for me, the kind of the nutshell moment, or like the business model, whichever way you want to look at it, was being able to combine like the enterprise design thinking that we used to do at IBM, along with the rapid innovation framework, like the design sprint, and combining those, and then actually giving our customers more of an end-to-end kind of strategy and design execution solution. So yeah, and that's me now. So founder of my own thing, Be the Leap. We're very small here, based in Berlin as well, but we're kind of remotely situated as a team. So
Yeah, yeah,
pretty much
awesome.
me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's definitely delve into Leap. So you mentioned that your company focuses on this solving complex business challenges through different methodologies like
Yeah,
design thinking and design sprint, right?
yeah.
So for our audience who might be not familiar with this, could you elaborate on what design thinking is, what design sprint is?
Yeah. So, and actually within our industry also is a huge kind of misconception of what design thinking is. And part of my rationale at Be the Leap was to start putting design thinking into our products so that our customers actually understood it more clearly. So in a nutshell, design thinking is basically you empathize with your customers, your end users of your product. So by doing design thinking, there's a strict set of tools out of your toolkit that you can apply. Normally, they're in-person workshops because to get to know your customers, you want to meet them, right? And you want to kind of see their emotions. You want to understand how they're feeling. You want to know what they're thinking. all of these components actually help us to build a better picture of who they are on their day-to-day, where they're having pain points, and where we as kind of innovators can maybe strategize opportunities to help them solve for their pain points. And I would say that's probably the most kind of concise summary of design thinking, but it's basically about having more empathy for the people that you're designing products for.
Okay, got it. And just
And
maybe from the practical perspective,
yeah,
can you give some specific example on how design thinking can help like a small startup or a big organization that you work with,
yeah.
build better product?
Yeah. So actually, I'll tell you a little story from when I was at IBM. We were working for local government healthcare, and the healthcare kind of offering was kind of flawed, I guess you could say. They were hemorrhaging money in certain areas, and actually, we designed two apps for them. One was for diabetes, and one was for pregnancy. And these were two kind of in Dubai as well, like day to day, like diabetes is a big deal, right? People don't go out and walk in the middle of the summer because it's too hot, right? So typically as a nation, they are more susceptible to to diabetes, right? So they wanted to ultimately save money long term because they realized that it was actually costing them a lot of money. So by having some digital customer experience that would enable people to have a bit more visibility of this awful disease like much earlier was a good way of them being able to identify that there were significant money savings for the future of their business. So again, it kind of comes back to the business, right? Much like the sprint, you're validating a business or business model. Design thinking, it still comes back to the business, but you have more empathy with your customers that are using it. So in this particular situation, they identified that they were losing a lot of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars, and they applied design thinking methodologies to help them solve for a more customer-centric solution that would actually help them save money. So that's probably the easiest way of explaining that one. And
Okay,
in
that
an
sounds
enterprise format, I would say, at least
yeah,
anyway.
yeah. That's a good one, I guess. So in just a short period of time after you launched Leap, Leap has attracted like attention of like large organizations like Amex, McKinsey. So you had a lot of big clients, right? As an agency founder myself, I'm really curious. How about how exactly did you do that? Could you share your approach? How can small organization like acquire such a big clients, especially from the international point of view, where you are
Yeah.
based in one country and you acquire guys from like a from the United States or other countries?
Yeah. So first of all, let me just be really clear. So McKinsey was before Be the Leap, but
Sorry about that.
we are still. I am very proud to say that we are still on an agency-approved vendor list for both American Express and McKinsey, but we just haven't had a project collaboration yet. But that being said, we've helped companies like Santander, and we also work with top Fortune 100 companies in San Francisco as well. And for me, it was I've spent a good part of my career building relationships with people that I've worked with in the past, and that means if clients come and work with us, and or if I've, for example, been in my senior role at IBM, like I like to be efficient in everything that I do. And I think when, for example, I left IBM, there were people that were very senior partners that also then left and went on to explore their own ventures, either inside or outside. And they obviously, if you build a good reputation for yourself, people want to come back, right? So for me, I've just invested heavily in my network. And I think this is probably now like our biggest chapter, is that we are a very boutique agency, and we're in our fourth year, and to give ourselves more of a chance for being around for another 4 years, we have to kind of broaden from my network as well. So this is actually what we're doing at the moment. We're doing a lot of growth experiments and trying to make friends with new partners, basically. So yeah, it's but I don't want to kind of distract the amount of work or take away from all of that time I've invested in building those working relationships. And sometimes as well, like when you make connections with people and then they leave and they go to a new company, it's often the case that the original company where we were brought in, they will still commission us for consulting work. And obviously when that person then goes on to another company, when it's even better for us, it's almost like they're kind of doing the biz dev for us, but obviously with our reputation, which I take very, very seriously.
Yeah, you know what they say, like a build relationship first and then sell after,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
kind of. And how do you ensure the seamless international collaboration with those companies, like especially with a team that operates kind of globally?
Yeah. It's I guess, since the pandemic, we've all had to work a little bit harder remotely as well, right? So we are small enough that we can probably get away with a few more things. So, we do, constantly check in with our customers. And but I think we also have a very unique set of skills, so that when we do work with those partners in a remote environment, they almost feel like they're working with us in the same studio. So I'm not going to kind of share what those tactics are because they're very personal to kind of like our business model. But we tend to give people a very personal and a very honest and transparent day-to-day working. And it's like with anything. It's like, if people invest in a company to help them and they're an external agency, we want to be so transparent and so available that team can feel like they're actually working with us and we're sat at the same desk. So it's just making sure that we constantly kind of build on those kind of digital relationships as well.
So you mentioned that initially your company, your studio, The Sleep, started as a vendor for takes, as far as I understood. But your because of your significant kind of contributions, transformed your role from a vendor to this co-founder of this new company. So it seems like very unique journey. Could you maybe share more about this?
Yeah. So again, this goes back to our kind of our network kind of conversation from earlier, and that was, someone based in California who is a client of ours. He recommended us to his friend who was about to embark upon this crazy idea of combining sports and social media together into like a digital experience. And actually, yeah, when IAMS contacted me, he was like, Rob, can you make us a prototype? I was like, we think we have a great idea. And then when I dug a little bit deeper and I was trying to understand exactly like what why he needed just a prototype or a proof of concept, but I kind of recommended, well, we should be doing a sprint for you because you'll already get a prototype as a byproduct of running the sprint. But if you're going and having conversations with investors to kind of whet their appetites and to kind of like explain like why there's a need to make this, then the design sprint will actually help you have all of these answers, as well as having a prototype and actual potential user validation as well. So it was early phase. It was completely bootstrapped, and our sprints are expensive. I'm not going to lie, but that's kind of why people come to us, because they normally have very significant challenges that they want to solve. And I really like the idea of this product. And so I said to IAMS that like we would be happy to do the sprint, and we would do it at a discount price if he considered like the offset of our original costings could be put into like equity, so that we could have some agreement that if we felt like this was something that worth pursuing, and then we would obviously invest in it as well. And we ran the 2-week iteration sprint, which is where we do a back-to-back sprint. So we get the data and then we go, right, well, we had these recommendations that we changed like X, Y, and Z. We would make those changes, then test again. And we've often found that this helps us make more robust products as well, because we have a better understanding. And the data that we got was just incredible. It was like, wow, like we really felt like, we'd found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, that, we felt that this is an opportunity that we should really kind of expand upon. And the great thing about IAMS is that he was really well connected. He had advisors from Google, from Disney, from EA Sports, from Snap Inc. as well. So like all of these big kind of US companies. He knew people that were giving him kind of strategic advice on like how to actually make this a product. So that's kind of how we got involved right at the beginning. And then I guess once we'd actually proved the actual product was a great idea, as a bonus track, my team actually created a like 90-second video to show like how this product would be used, because back in the early days we had this feature where you held your phone up to like a sports game that was being played, and it would be able to tell you exactly what the game was and give you a score bug or a scoreboard based on the live play. And when you're creating a prototype, it's kind of hard to kind of show really that human kind of digital connection. So we felt the video would be a really great kind of precursor, that whenever they were going in and talking to investors, that they would do their introductions, play the video, and then take questions, rather than spending a significant amount of time with those investors explaining kind of like how it worked. So we gave them the video as a kind of like an extra bonus, and we found that actually was a much more significant way to enhance the conversion for the investors to kind of want to part with some of their cash. So it was a win-win for everybody, really. And then I think it was probably about 4 months afterwards, we got the green light. Be the Leap went into an execution arm to making that product, and we actually started doing subsequent releases for the App Store. I think we had our first working version of onboarding within literally probably 10 days. The dev team are incredibly talented, and obviously with the design team as well, we were able to make these things come to life really, really quickly. And then I guess you're looking at probably by the end of it would have been by the end of summer 2021, I guess it would have been. It was just, we were literally getting ready to kind of do an unofficial App Store version of that actual app, so that it was a closed beta group, so that we could have a number of users on it. And I think we had literally 150 people on the platform within a few weeks, and now we're subsequently kind of pushing all of our kind of efforts into a growth. We want to get to like 10,000 users on the platform before January, February time next year. So we're already on track to getting to 3,000. So we're doing some pretty good number crunching on the growth, and I can't take credit from that, but that was again part of some of the other co-founders that were being brought in as well. But to answer your question, they saw the value in how we were applying a strategic and creative arm to their offering. And with my ability to kind of lead that, it was a natural, offering to kind of give me a co-founder kind of offering on that as well. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you recommend the same like a model to other maybe agency founders? I mean, consider taking equity instead of charging fees.
Yeah, so I want to be really careful here, because companies, like we have a small company, right? So we cannot survive on equity alone. Like we still have to pay people's salaries and things like that. So there has to be a kind of a balance with regards to the value that you provide, and the kind of like the retention or retainer figure, I guess you could say, for doing kind of like execution work. But when it comes down to the risk and kind of validating that proof of concept, we also go into every engagement wanting to break it, because as much as we love some of these ideas, we're trying to remain emotionally, distant from whether we think it's going to work or not. We would rather let the data kind of prove that. So, as with anything, you have to prove the business model, check that it kind of is viable, produce a tangible working prototype of it so people can really understand like the intent behind it, and then the kind of the real design starts. But yeah, it all comes down to being able to identify what that value is and putting a percentage of equity against that, because obviously, without us materializing that as quickly as we did, people don't really know what it is that you're talking about. So I guess we were the first ones to take the risk, and for that we found a really good balance with regards to equity and a retention figure as well.
Okay, that totally makes sense. Let's talk a bit about like AI, right? So my favorite question. So frankly speaking, like AI significantly changed the way how we work at Go Globy. Like we changed all processes. We implemented a number of new internally created tools. Uh, what about you? What about your agency? Has AI changed the way you uh, do your work, like or not really?
I guess yes and no. So not to be kind of too vague on it. Yes and no. I say, of course, like everybody's acutely aware of the AI and the ChatGPT kind of like impact that it's had on the world, and we're seeing updates now for like versions 4 and 4.5, and it's becoming a completely kind of seamless like integrated experience. So yes, like we are like carefully watching like what its capabilities are. I would say I'm glad I'm not just focused in UX and UI now. I think if I was only doing that, I think I would be extremely worried. But I mean, I would say not immediately. Like within the next 5, probably 10 years, it's probably gonna, kill a lot of those jobs. But you still need designers to know whether it's making the right things. Yeah. So I think it's never going to completely remove like the UX or UI side of like how a product is made, because you're still going to need people and your customers with the empathy of knowing your customers to know if what it's recommending is going to be the right thing. Yeah. It's never going to be completely automated, or certainly not for the foreseeable future. But yeah, it's definitely something to kind of bear in mind. But we kind of made sure that we were still very people orientated. So a lot of our workshop, in fact, all of our workshops, all of our engagements start with a workshop with our customer, and that's where we can really truly delve into empathizing with what their requirements are and actually working with them. And a lot of the time, it comes down to it's not just about creating something going, there you go. The mindset and the disruption in how we make products these days is actually bringing that client with you on that journey, so that they know they're a part of the decisions made along the way. And that's where you get the most buy-in and the most kind of longevity with those products. So yeah, definitely having it people orientated is a good differentiator for us with regards to like what all the ChatGPT stuff is doing. But I also wanted to say that within days of ChatGPT being available, we'd already integrated it into Takes, and we actually have that as part of our interface that enables our fans and users to have more accurate sports data. And we've done that in a kind of almost like a chat style kind of way. It's way better than that. But it was very easy to kind of integrate that. And actually, kudos to Mike Durst and his dev team for kind of doing that so rapidly. But yeah, we've also got a lot of new technological advancements off the back of AI within that experience. I'm not going to share them here because otherwise everybody's going to copy them. But there's a lot of really cool things coming with regards to personalization and things like that. So yeah, it's exciting times for sure when you're in a unique position of being kind of responsible for a customer experience in your own app, and also being a strategic agency, and how we use that in our kind of customer and client experiences. I feel like I've got the best of both worlds, I'll be honest.
Okay, and before we finish this discussion, based on your experience, what advice would you give to talent, maybe to designers or even to entrepreneurs who are looking to succeed in the current market that is tough from my point of view? What advice would you give to them? Are there any key principles, lessons that you learned from your journey that could be beneficial for them at this point?
Yeah, actually, one of my first conversations was with a professor at a university here in Berlin, and we were having this conversation around the whole of like chat and like GPT and where it's going. And he actually shared with me something that really still resonates with me as strongly as the day that we were talking about it, and that was, you know, he was basically coming at the angle that it's going to really heighten the human connection and conversations that we have, like we're having right now, because I think people will rely on AI to help them qualify for interviews. They will help them qualify for writing articles that they're not very good at writing. And I think it comes back to you're going to have to be able to back that up at some point. and you will be able to back that up by having in-person human conversations. And I think it will actually make these human conversations more prominent, more relevant. And I think there's going to be a point where, of course, like it's like, I've got Sharpies on my desk. People are going to be using ChatGPT to do whatever their day-to-day stuff is, but they're still going to need to be able to have conversations and show that they actually know their stuff, rather than just regurgitating something from a ChatGPT post that you've asked it to create or something. So go back to your question, I think it's going to be about being more human, being more knowledgeable, and obviously retaining that information so that you can talk about it. And I think that's going to be really the value in the future, and that we should hopefully cherish and try and have more in-person conversations, basically.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Rob. It's been a pleasure having you on the Default Global podcast. Thank you for your thoughts, for your insights on design sprints, on remote work, and on the way how we can become a global first entrepreneur on AI. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you as well. Thanks for having me.